Howard's Plan to Avoid Death by Omar Cuellar. In Deo Speramus, I thought, recalling the motto of Brown University as I sheltered from the rain beneath that tree. If only they knew what I know. My name is Martin Brundle. I was born in the city of Providence, Rhode Island in 2004. From a very early age, I began wondering why I liked the things I liked, why I did what I did, and why I behaved the way I behaved. It seemed I was doomed to fail in this pursuit, because every time I believed I was drawing closer to the true reasons that had, over the years, shaped my personality and way of life, I would end up, for one reason or another, even more confused and dissatisfied with my findings. When I was 15, I began to experience a childish fascination with the colonial and vestigial architecture of Providence. While the locals lived inside their own minds, preoccupied with the tasks and goals they believed they had to fulfill, I drifted and glided through the streets as if inside a dream. I could spend many minutes standing in front of the Georgian and Federal-style buildings that populated the city center, buildings now unjustly ignored by most of the inhabitants. It struck me as a tremendous lack of respect that people had allowed everyday life to place a veil over their heads, one that now prevented them from admiring the architectural beauty which, in other times, had been nothing less than the dwelling place of our ancestors, the colonists and their descendants. 5 years later, a terrible and effervescent passion for poetry was born within me, one I also could not explain. I would spend hours in my mind thinking of unforeseen and unthinkable poems that seemed to come alive when I closed my eyes, only to die the instant I opened them again. Those poems that populated my mind felt like a bad dream or a hangover, a memory or a nightmare. I could neither identify nor dared to identify their origin. One night that threatened to turn stormy, during dinner, I closed my eyes, and so, with my eyes closed, I stood on the brink of disaster as I began to declaim, with a clearly drunken accent, and a fusion of 18th century, joyful Georgian Bacchic jubilation that I had never read or heard before. At that time, I was attending Brown University, and my dormitory was in the College Hill neighborhood. That same night, despite the increasingly close thunder and lightning, an invincible sleep overcame me. The growing storm must have influenced my dreams, because during the brief time I slept, I suffered apocalyptic visions and a terrible fever. I never knew whether the dreams caused the fever or the fever caused the dreams, but in those bizarre visions, I was able to recall verses that it seemed I had always known. I awoke to find myself facing red madness and satanic mockery. On that stormy night, with a flashlight casting macabre shadows, I was digging alone, like an idiot, in one of the gardens of Brown University near my dormitory. What I found there, buried beneath the earth, I scarcely dare mention. It was a book I had loved with all my strength since I was a child. It was 1001 Nights, and then I remembered everything. My name is Howard. My name is Howard, I murmured, and I proceeded to clutch that ancient blackened book tightly to my chest, heedless of the rain still soaking me. It worked. It really worked. I stood up jubilant, shouting these words to the night sky, which seemed to answer me immediately with thunder and lightning like shrieks. My name is Howard Phillips Lovecraft, and only I, thanks to the wisdom of the Penobscot manuscripts, know the plan to avoid death. Exulting with joy at my triumph over death, I walked through the rain, exhilarated and with wild steps, seeking shelter beneath the tall trees on campus. There, under a grotesque and gnarled tree, I turned toward the stormy sky and drew a terrible smile across my face. I raised the book I held in both hands toward the black vault above and proclaimed, "Sleep, watchman, until the stars turn 26,000 years and I return to the place where I now burn. Then other stars shall rise upon the axis of the heavens, stars that soothe, stars that bless by granting sweet oblivion. Only when my orbit is complete shall the past disturb your door." and I proceeded to bury the book near that tree, so that when the body of Martin Brundle died, this book, my precious childhood treasure, would once again anchor itself in the consciousness of another kindred human being.